Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and our 20th episode of Lightspeed. Bringing you Star Wars news and headlines in under 15 minutes. Perfect for those walks with the dog, trips to the grocery store, all that jazz. And we got a bunch of news to get through today, starting off with, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi, which has been dominating Disney+. And we hope you all have been enjoying our after show series on the podcast. We do one every week, recapping the events and breaking down each episode, pointing out little things that we've noticed, connecting plot lines and character arcs and all that stuff. It's been a great time. We've had some great guests, some good friends on the show, and it's been fun. So we hope you guys have been enjoying those. But there's some really cool news coming down the pipe for Obi-Wan Kenobi fans, and that is in Canada at Cineplex Cinemas next week, I believe on the 22nd, and potentially the day after as well, the 23rd. There will be hosting a 5-hour and 20-minute Obi-Wan Kenobi entire season binge, plus a Q&A, which I assume has been videotaped with both with all the main actors, I assume, and the event will feature both that as well as all the episodes in the show. So that's absolutely fantastic, and you can find it on the Cineplex Cinemas website under the events. And I don't believe tickets are available just yet, but keep an eye on that page because I assume it's going to sell out very, very quickly. And the times announced have not yet been clarified, but I assume it might be a whole day thing. So, maybe take a day off work or something like that for binging Obi-Wan Kenobi in cinemas. Because what a way to relive the experience of Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader. And I assume that if we're not all going to that binge in the theater, we'll all be watching it from home. Hopefully you got a home cinema you can switch that on, experience it on the big screen as the way it was probably shot for. So yeah, that's some pretty cool news right there. But there's so much coming down the pipe. I mean, Star Wars Celebration just happened this past month, and we've been very busy here at Star Wars Escape Pod, trying to bring you all the updates and the news. And over the course of that weekend, Blake and I had a great time recapping every single day of Star Wars Celebration. It kept us very busy with Obi-Wan Kenobi, the What Happened episodes, the deleted scenes. Then all of a sudden we had Celebration. It's been a very crazy month. So hopefully all of you guys were able to catch all the episodes that we did manage to get around to do this month. And we thank you all again for sharing the show with your friends, leaving great reviews, dropping those 5 stars. It really helps us out. Really brings in new audience members to tune into the show on Spotify and various other sites. But it also tells us that we're doing a good job and we're able to entertain you very well. So that's it. As you know, this is a ad-free podcast, and we don't generate any kind of revenue at all. It's just purely done from the hearts of us fans here at the show, and love knowing that you guys are entertained by what we've got to say and the episodes that we produce. There's a lot of Star Wars content coming out from Lucasfilm, and let me just run through the list here because you're going to be blown away as much as I am. If you haven't kept track of over the course of Celebration or within the last couple months, you might know at least a lot of these things, but I'm going to toss in the shows, the movies, and the games all in one list and just bash through it here, all right? So August 5th this year, we are getting LEGO Star Wars Summer Vacation. August 31st this year, we are getting the premiere episode of Star Wars Andor Season 1 and potentially Season 2 to follow. In the fall of this year, we are getting the animated series Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. And in September this year, on the 28th, we get Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2. This year at some point, they haven't really specified a release date yet, the game Star Wars Hunters will be released on mobile and Nintendo Switch. And in February 2023, Star Wars The Mandalorian Season 3 will hit screens at home. Next year in spring, we will also see the premiere of Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures and a Season 2 for Star Wars Visions, the animated series. Sometime next year in 2023, we will also get the premiere of Star Wars Ahsoka, which basically acts as a 5th season to Star Wars Rebels and a follow-up to her appearances in the Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian. Next year, Jedi Survivor kicks things off with the sequel game to the Jedi Fallen Order series. And again, next year, we will also see the debut of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, the live-action younger viewer series with Jude Law. To be announced is a release date for the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake for PlayStation. And in a few years, I'm assuming 2023 or 2024, we will see the debut of Star Wars The Acolyte, which takes place 100 years before The Phantom Menace and the tail end of the High Republic era, coming to Disney+. In late 2023, we're supposedly supposed to get Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie, but that's not really confirmed, and it could be delayed. I have a feeling that Lucasfilm's really focusing in on the Star Wars content that we're getting at home, and I'm okay with that, so there's a lot of stuff to get through. A lot of people may have forgotten about it already, but the Star Wars Disney Plus shows Lando, as well as another one called Star Wars A Droid Story, should be coming at some point in the future within the next couple years. It's still in the pipe as far as we know, and as far as they've hinted, Donald Glover should be returning to reprise his role as a young Lando. Patty Jenkins' Star Wars Rogue Squadron movie did hit delays last year or earlier this year, and that movie is also supposed to be coming out within the next 5 years, I believe. I'm just going to take a wild guess and say 2024 or 2025. Kevin Feige is supposed to be producing a Star Wars project as well. No idea when that's happening, but that's also in the pipe. And a Star Wars video game called Eclipse, taking place during the High Republic, is also supposed to come out within the next 5 years. Ubisoft also has a Star Wars project in the works, and I have no idea what the details are on that. And finally, the Rangers of the New Republic show is floating around as a possibility that it, could be still in the works, but as far as we know from official channels, that show has been shelved and may not see the light of day ever again. So we could probably consider that canceled at this point. And that is all the Star Wars shows and games coming at us over the next couple years. So I'm stoked. I hope you are. And there's so much more to get through today. So let's kick things off with a little bit of merchandise. 6-inch Black Series figures and Lego sets were announced for Obi-Wan Kenobi. And with the debut of Andor later this year, you're also going to be seeing a rise in reproduced or new merch and related product for Rogue One. So if you're a big fan of Rogue One, you're going to see a lot of that stuff returning with the hype around Andor. Now let's get into comic books and novels. So Marvel's Star Wars Tales Black Chrysanthemum. If you're a big fan of Black Chrysanthemum, he was that Wookiee bounty hunter in the Book of Boba Fett. He's getting his own compiled book, I guess, with all the issues that he's shown up in Marvel Comics as a bound sort of book that you can read through his stories within that within those storylines, and that's a great way to experience the story arc of Black Chrysanthemum. And at some point in the future, maybe we'll do a What Happened episode on him as well. Darth Vader issue number 23 and 24 came out this month in the last Star Wars issue number 24. Bounty Hunters issue number 24, Crimson Reign, as well as Dr. Aphra issue number 20, Han Solo and Chewbacca issue number 2. That's all within the last month, and this month and on June 22nd we'll see Obi-Wan Kenobi number 2 come out as well. June 28th, later this month, we're getting the novel Shadow of the Sith, which takes place kind of between the events of episode 6 and 7, and it's going to be about Luke Skywalker and Lando on a journey. It's going to fill in a lot of the gaps that were left with The Rise of Skywalker, and that's going to be a great novel to experience. August 23rd, 2022, we're going to see a bound copy of the Crimson Reign storyline, which is a sequel to the War of the Bounty Hunters Marvel crossover that we saw last year. And if you haven't been following the comic books and the individual storylines on the week-to-week Wednesday releases, you'll be able to read the bound main staple stories in the Crimson Reign trade paperback publish that's coming August 23rd. Finally, later this year, a new Marvel Comics series explores the epic history of the Jedi Master Yoda in a 10-issue format written by Cavan Scott and Nico Leon, launching this October. And that's going to be really exciting to read as well. Recently, Rupert Friend, who played the Grand Inquisitor on Obi-Wan Kenobi, appeared on a recent episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live and opened up about his exit from the Star Wars series. Now, when Kimmel asked Friend about his character being stabbed through the stomach, Friend replied that he was only stabbed through one of them. Friend's comment is a reference to the race that he plays, the Pawn race, which is what the Grand Inquisitor is. The Pawns have two stomachs, and Friend reminded all of us Star Wars fans about this. They don't have one stomach, they've got two. So this might actually help explain why the Grand Inquisitor survives. And it's a possibility that he might not show up for the rest of the show, but it's maybe his way of kind of comforting us Star Wars fans, knowing that there will be a story that fills in that gap, and why we do see him in Star Wars Rebels, and why his actual death is in Star Wars Rebels and not Obi-Wan Kenobi. So anyone out there freaking out about the possible plot hole there and the decanonization of the first season of Rebels, I don't think you have to worry about it. I have not been that convinced that they'll go back on the canonicity of Star Wars Rebels, which is a Disney animated project, especially seeing as The Mandalorian and various other live-action shows are pulling so many strings from that show. I highly doubt that they will leave things off on a plot hole note. I think they gave a lot of thought into this motion that they made in the show, and I believe it was intentional to put Reva in the spotlight without the Grand Inquisitor being there to overshadow her threat. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that plot line, and perhaps we'll see the return of him in the show. I really hope we do, but if not, then I assume we'll get a Marvel comic or a novel that kind of fills in how he comes back, how he recovers from his first stomach being burned through his body, and how he's able to survive that event. So, thank you, Rupert Friend, for giving us an early kind of comforting word on the conclusion to all of that. And finally, if any of you have been following us for the last couple of years, you'll notice that we've actually surpassed 200 episodes on the podcast. Now, this is quite a milestone ever since launching the show all the way back in August on the 31st in 2019, if you can believe it. And time has just completely flown right by. So any of you who've been with us ever since the intro, a huge thank you to you, and for all of our listeners out there who've been just continuously listening to Star Wars Escape Pod on a weekly basis. It's a huge compliment, and it's just, I love the idea that we're able to provide these Star Wars fan-based pieces of entertainment on a weekly basis for you to get your weekly Star Wars dose. And we love hearing from you guys. So send in an email to swescapepodcast@gmail.com. It's all in the description below. You can drop a voicemail. Let us know, what's your favorite episode from the podcast to celebrate 200 episodes. I mean, we're a little bit late on that bandwagon because of the hype around Kenobi. We just kind of powered through with the after shows and skipped right by the 200th episode celebration. But this is just a little acknowledgement to all of you and to the podcast. A big thank you for supporting Star Wars Escape Pod, dropping those great reviews, sharing the show with a friend, and just enjoying the heck out of our podcast, because we love doing it, and we really hope you love tuning into it. So until next episode, may the Force be with you, and we will see you in the next one.